Welcome to Podpinions, where the world's on fire, and we show up like it's a backyard barbecue. Politicians roasted, woke trends torched, common sense, we got you covered.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Podpinions.
I'm Rich.
And I'm Bruce.
And here we are for another jam-packed night.
Can it get any more jam-packed?
I don't know. Again, like I said the last time, you watch the news in the morning, and by noon, it's just completely different.
Completely different. It's like just completely different.
But I did a bunch of notes this morning, and it's totally moot.
Yep. It all got put on the back burner, right?
Like, wow. I mean, the biggie this morning, or actually all day, was evidently, I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw it with Trump.
With the news conference.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I mean, he's accusing Obama of treason.
Yeah, on live TV.
That was just
mouth
hitting the floor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we all had an inkling of kind of what was going on from the beginning. I mean, it's been since Trump got in office in 2016 that he's been saying that, the Obama administration spied on his campaign and the Russia hoax and all that stuff.
I mean, it's just, well, going back to what, 2015, right?
Yeah. Basically when he come down the escalator.
Right. They started immediately.
Yeah. The news agencies, the media, they just
flipped on
them. The legacy
media.
Yeah.
As opposed to mainstream
media. Yeah. It's kind of all the one big ball of...
It's funny. Like, mainstream media is like podcasters now.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. That's where everybody's getting actually the most up-to-date actual breaking news.
Right.
Other than if you watch the mainstream media, legacy media, whatever you want to call it, that ball line that, you cast your line and go, and it's all over together.
It's called a bird's nest.
And so you try to listen to that, and they're talking about just nonsense.
And it's not like we're journalists. We never even played one on TV.
Right, exactly.
But pun or joke, bad joke. But I guess on Friday, see, I thought it just kind of like got glossed over on Friday, this whole thing. And then when was it? Yesterday Trump came out, wasn't it? Or was it today?
No, it was today.
Yeah. And it just, whoa.
Yeah.
So evidently on Friday, Tulsi Gabbard, who is the head of National Intelligence, Director of National Intelligence, revealed overwhelming evidence that demonstrates how after President Trump won the 2016 election against Hillary, that Obama, then President Obama, and his national security cabinet members manufactured that whole Russian collusion thing.
Now remind me, didn't he get impeached for along those lines of the investigation? And yeah. So all this
was that phone call with Ukraine,
right? Exactly.
And that little weenie from the Pentagon was on the other line,
right? And
he testified that it was like,
something
collusion,
right?
And all kinds of weird stuff going on.
Yep. Then you had the lovers.
Oh yeah, Strzok and Page.
From the
FBI,
right? But apparently, this all started in the Oval Office. They had a meeting with Obama's top cabinet members.
Yeah, but how did they find this out? Just from documents?
Well, yeah. There's if you go onto the website, DNI website, Tulsi released all the information, the documents.
It's actually
on
that's
there.
Where we got this from. It was actually on a government website.
Yep.
And it's all there.
It's basically the breakdown of the meetings and what went over. Who was there? Biden was there. Clapper, Brennan, Comey. They were all part of this.
And then they lied in Congress.
Right.
And how many of them actually got pardons from the auto pen?
The auto pen, yes. Isn't that
We're still not done with that yet.
The auto pen, it never runs out of ink. It's amazing.
No, so I mean, how many of those guys actually got pardoned? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't have the whole list. I don't.
We
don't
should
know.
actually do that.
Yeah, we could do that.
Get
the
a whole list of all the pardons and see who's who.
Maybe I
who's
can put a
what.
list in the notes for this episode. I'll put a note in.
But
of
it's
all
pretty
the
crazy.
pardons.
Like Loretta Lynch, she was in on it. Andrew McCabe, all talking about Russia and how they can do something. You remember when they said that there were videos of Trump in somewhere with like a Russian prostitute.
Right. It
Remember
was supposed
that?
to. Yeah. The PP tape they always
right.
call it. Yeah. It was supposed to be
It's
peeing
just
on them or something like that. It's just
unbelievable.
ridiculous.
Absolutely believable. So after this one meeting, Clapper's executive assistant sent an email to the leaders asking them with creating a new IC assessment per the president's request. So now they must have it in writing that Obama requested all this stuff.
Yep.
So
There's a lot to unpack in the documents that were released, and I'm sure that's why they did it on Friday to give the weekend for people to go over the documents that were released. But that one, not just the bullet points, but the whole
document, right?
document.
Yeah, go on
outlining.
the website. We'll get you the
Yeah, we'll put it down in the link in the episode down there. You can click right on
because
it.
it's unbelievable.
Yep.
So, in 2017, a new intelligence community assessment was released that directly contradicted the other thing. Because now they're into CYA, covering your ass, for those who are not in the know. So the months of investigations and all kinds of stuff. So now we know going forward, if you jump forward to that meeting that Trump had with Comey, when Comey took notes and did all what he did, when they had that dinner together and it went south. Now we know why.
Right. And Comey had made a comment too about was that in Congress that he or somebody asked him, maybe it was at a speech or something like that he was talking about the FBI investigating Trump, and they're not supposed that whatever the investigation was that they weren't supposed to do, and Comey was like, well, I sent them anyway.
Right.
And everybody laughed and had a good time and all that good stuff. So ha ha ha.
Unbelievable.
The laugh is on them now.
So then they hired Mueller to do his whole thing.
Don't forget, in the midst of all that too, with the meeting with Trump appointing General Michael Flynn at the time, Flynn actually wasn't part of all this group, but apparently he must have had some kind of knowledge of that.
So that's why they went after him.
And they went after him. And if you haven't seen the movie Flynn, it's definitely worth watching. It's
that poor guy, what he went through.
Yeah. And then he ended up getting he hired Sidney Powell, I believe was the attorney, and basically got off the charges, and then they started going after his son.
And that's when he said.
That's when, yeah.
So now, you actually met him, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. When they were, just before they were releasing the movie, he was doing a local tour, and I had gone up north and met him, and met his son, met some other people, Ivan Raglan, who's done some incredible investigation about the timeline and how all this is connected.
Did he speak at that?
Yeah, and very down to earth. It was like me and you talking, and it was really eye opening. Basically, it was a premiere. You got to meet him, talk to him. He spoke to you, the group, and then you watched the movie, and then you were able to ask questions afterward and
cool.
stuff. Yeah,
very cool.
So it really opened my eyes on what he went through, and it's incredible what these people are going through to retain power
it's I knew it was bad, but I didn't know how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's levels, and again, peeling the onion,
Mm-hmm.
but the corruption and the level that this was at
Right.
is just, there are no words.
No, and they created such a I guess a wall between the media and what they were doing and making up all these stories for the regular person to try and investigate this stuff.
And now
It's
Obama's like
impossible.
fighting back big
Right.
time. It's like, it's
He
all
put out a
bullshit.
statement,
Oh
too,
yeah,
right?
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
So I will listen to one attorney today, and somebody had asked him about the statute of limitations for like this conspiracy and that sort of thing. And basically it has to be it's 5 years, I believe it is. It's the statute of limitation. Now, treason doesn't have a statute of limitations, but like conspiracy to commit these types of crimes has like a 5-year statute of limitations.
so where are we at?
So basically what happens is you have to get to a point where the thoughts or the conspiracy is been like disavowed and ended. But every time they go ahead and comment or try to bury more, it extends
Okay.
to that time period. So even today, with Obama coming out and making a statement, now the 5 years extension starts as of the time when he's trying to, if allegedly committed some as part of these crimes, it's going to start from today, 5 years.
Okay.
So it just keeps extending each time they open their mouths, basically, and try to
This has been going
bury
on
it.
for 10 years.
Right.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if, well, what's amazing to me is there's certain people still screaming about Russia.
Right.
And it's been debunked like umpteen
Right.
times. And they're still on this Trump's evil.
Yeah.
But here,
Right.
you had
And
a
you-
president of the United States
Conspiring
against someone else.
and well, not only someone else, but well,
Be in-
private citizen
right.
would be in before he was elected,
And then the president
and a
of the United
duly
States.
elected
Right.
president of the United States, and then even afterward, that they continued this Russia thing, and it says right in the documents, the FBI investigated the CIA, and there was no thought or even suggestion that Russia had any interference in the election or was going to interfere in the election. And it's all documented there.
So what they're going to do now is they are going to, according to Tulsi Gabbard, they're going to start investigating everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what level they're at.
Right.
Everybody's getting investigated.
And that's the way it needs to be.
So now I just hope to God Pam Bondi doesn't cave.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think no matter what's happened in the past, recently with Epstein and that sort of thing, it's now she has no choice as far as I'm concerned.
I hope you're right.
She's either going to do it or it's all going to implode on her because she's going to be the key now.
Now, my question is, we talked about this earlier. I think it was over the weekend or last week, Matt Gaetz met with Trump at the White House, but nothing was said as to why. And
there was that one rally. I did pull up the rally that he had said that the way things were progressing with the election, and him and Gates had a secret, and he would let us all know what the secret was after the election. So maybe
which election?
maybe this past one in 2024.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or 2023, or 2024. Yeah. So I don't think we've ever heard what the secret was.
No.
So maybe this has something to do with that.
Or was that when he was going to be Attorney General and then the Democrats just
No,
ran
it had
that?
something to do with the election. He specifically said that the plan on the election or something like that. He says, we have a good plan or something like that. Right, Matt Gaetz? He specifically said Matt Gaetz. So
Okay. Because now they're subpoenaing, they're trying to. Yeah, was it a subpoena to get all the Pennsylvania voter records?
yeah, so they put out a request for, I believe, I'm gonna say it was, I don't remember if it was 9 or 19 states. I believe it was 9 specific states that they've requested the voter records, not the votes, but their voter records.
To see who's real and who's not.
Right. To see
That should be
what's going
interesting.
on. So this is all going to be tied into, the election, what these people have been trying to do with him being elected and trying to get, discredit him right off the bat. It just, there's no question that we all saw the videos of the big sheets of cardboard
I couldn't believe
taping up on the windows.
Yeah, Philadelphia, where they were blocking out the windows so nobody could look
Right.
in.
Yeah, and I remember I was watching the vote counts in the state, and I clicked the refresh button to get the newest results, and the votes changed like 40,000 votes right in front of my eyes. So there's nobody going to tell me that something wasn't going on.
Yeah, something was very
going on.
amiss.
Yeah,
So if you want to check this out, dni.gov is is where Tulsi Gabbard put up all this information.
Yep.
So now they're trying to discredit her,
Mm-hmm.
and this is going to be very, very interesting how they're trying to backpedal.
Right. Well, it's going to be hard to discredit now because in the 6 months he's been in, he's worked on the trade deals, all the everything that they said. Oh, it's going to crush the economy,
And it didn't.
It did
just
the
not.
opposite.
Right.
The stock market's the highest it's ever been in history. These companies are coming in, billions and $500 billion here, $500 billion there, $1 trillion here, wanting to bring their companies back to the United States or into the United States. Pennsylvania, they just had the meeting last week with for the technology.
With AI and all that stuff.
So all that is going to have a play on people's mindsets of what's real and what's just propaganda, because we've been fed propaganda for a long time, and a lot of people are just over it because we want to buy a house, have a family, and
Just live your life.
live your life.
Well, I'm still at a loss for words about the President of the United States coming out on live television and accusing a former president of treason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just at a complete loss of words.
Yeah, well, apparently their documents support that. So,
But legacy media is not exactly putting it out there.
well, it's like you could hear a pin drop with this out in the legacy media, because they're all implicated into it as well. If they're supporting this,
Right.
and Russian or the Russian hoax, they've been jamming it down everybody's throat for years. I mean, I still see it come up every once in a while on the a clip here and there.
It's funny. I mean, it's really funny.
And you had
Adam Schiff is still.
oh yeah.
Now they're investigating him.
Right.
Oh joy.
So it seems like the chickens are going to come to roost. We'll see.
I guess the old adage of payback is a bitch
Yeah.
is coming true.
That's it. They, I mean, we talked about it 2 episodes ago. Now it's starting to come clearer what exactly happened in Butler. As far as I'm concerned, the questions are starting to become bigger and bigger and bigger.
And the guy in Florida, too.
Right. But the guy in Florida didn't take a shot, but this guy took several shots and hit the president, Trump, in the ear. So it begs lots of questions of what exactly happened, and if this core group and its underlings made all this stuff up. I mean, they know they're in deep doo-doo if this all comes out, which looks like it's coming out. So it makes you wonder how far they would actually go to prevent this from coming out.
The thing in Butler, that was a hit.
I'm not saying it is, but everything leads to the
kind of
question.
Like, why didn't they see this kid on the roof and do something about it?
Right. And you have certain news agencies that hadn't covered a rally of Trump whole time until that day.
Right.
And it's amazing. It's the same news agency that media agency that was there for some of the arrests.
Oh yeah, which one was it? Roger Stone.
Roger Stone. They just happened to be.
CNN just shows up at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
And now, how did they know? Yeah. So it just makes you wonder, how did they know to record this particular broadcast?
Good point.
So, it's just questions that
and all
that
the
come
weird
up.
stuff. I mean, the kid was cremated like 2 days later.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
Know nothing about his parents.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
The whole thing stinks.
Yep. And then you have some of the independent people that are have gotten themselves, kind of looking at different things and cell phone records, and there's pings from supposedly this kid's cell phone, had several cell phones, even pinging it into Washington, D.C., at the FBI building. So, again, sounds like conspiracy theory, much like what we were shoved down our throats in 2016 with the Russian, saying that this Russian stuff was a hoax, all called conspiracy theorists and all this stuff.
But now it's a Podpinion.
It's a Podpinion. And, it just, I think it's all going to come out. I
hope so. And it's only been 6 months into his term.
Yep.
But I'm still worried about the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier that you're not, but
anything can happen. Obviously, I mean, it's not that I'm not worried, but again, if you continue, you have to have the public support. You had to have the public support for the Russian hoax to actually take effect, and they were very successsul with that.
Big time.
The whole country was divided on that.
Goebbels would be proud.
Yes. So the what has to happen is you have to show by example real stuff. This was all talk. There was no documents. There was no evidence of Russia hacking us. There was no, computer printout saying that it was hit from this and this is how many votes got switched, and it was all just talk. It was like, oh well, it's top secret, so we can't show you, but this is what happened. Yeah. But what's happening now is there's actual evidence of and documentation, and there's what Trump has said will happen as far as economy and bringing jobs back, closing the border. He's actually doing it, and he doesn't have to bury it behind a top secret label.
Not at all.
It's in front of the nation.
Yeah, he's right out there with it.
So anybody that can't see that, I'm sorry for him, but it's right in front of your face now. It's just up to you whether you want to see it or not.
What's amazing to me, though, is that the Democrats and the lefties still won't buy it. It's right there in front of their face, and they're still saying it's not true.
Well, I mean, if you're implemented in conducting treason against the United States, I would probably discredit it also.
No, what's funny is because right before we started tonight, I just checked some stuff online. Thank you, Al Gore.
Yeah, thank you.
And the poll numbers. So the Pew Research and some of those, they have Trump up. CNN, MSNBC, all of those, they have him losing points big time.
Right. Just up to the election. I mean, Kamala was
way up
ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't know how anybody could think that, especially after the first time. Oh, yeah, Hillary's a shoo-in.
Yeah, right. Well, she was a much stronger candidate than Kamala Harris, I can tell you that.
What happened to Kamala Harris? Gone.
Don't know.
She's poof.
Yeah.
Maybe she's in a rehab.
Just listen for the cackle.
Yeah, that's it. On a sad note, Ozzy Osbourne passed.
Oh, yeah. Ozzy.
I was surprised because he
icon.
just did a concert
a
week or two ago.
His final tour or final concert.
I mean, he was sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
I mean, he was,
he looked really rough.
Yeah. But he did
But
it.
And, thank goodness that he was able to get out there one last time and for the fans. And
And
I
for
mean,
himself,
he's an
too.
icon,
Wasn't he the one who ate a bat on stage or ripped a bat's head off on stage?
Yeah, I don't remember if it was a bat or I know there was a dove, but I don't know if the bat was actually
Real?
Yeah.
If there was a conspiracy?
Yeah.
A theory?
It was could have been like a Russian interfering with our election.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not
But
sure.
he was 76.
He was a Russian bat or China bat.
China bat. And
Maybe that's where they get the bat thing for COVID.
It was from him.
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne started it.
Yeah.
But he had Parkinson's, and he's been battling it for a couple years. And his wife had cancer, I think. Didn't she? Sharon Osbourne?
I know she was sick. I believe she did, yeah. It's...
he was referred to as the Prince of
Darkness, yeah.
I know a trumpet player who we called that.
Yes.
But
He didn't seem like the Prince of Darkness when he had that TV show.
that was bizarre. I remember it was so bad, like you had to watch it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Sharon!
Oh, man. So he's going to be missed in the music world.
Yeah.
He was a significant music maker.
Yeah.
And
Definitely left his mark, and he's one of those musicians that have inspired others to be who they are now, and some of those bands are iconic as well. But he's definitely been one of those pioneers, I guess you would say,
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
that sort of music. So
the metal guys.
yeah.
So God bless you, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
What else is happening?
All kinds of stuff. What do you got? You get a pile there. I don't think we can get through it all.
I did a ton of research today. So John Fetterman, our senator from Pennsylvania,
Right.
he this guy's really surprising me. I didn't like him at all, as you know. I mean, I really did. I saw this guy and it's like, oh man, Senator Lurch, from the That's what he reminds me of. But then he had this
From the
stroke.
Addams family,
Right.
if you didn't know. Yeah.
I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
So he just he shocks me every time. The guy had a stroke and was laid up for who knows how long. He even needed a special computer screen
Right.
in the Senate because he didn't comprehend things, so he had to read it.
Right.
So they did that for him. And all of a sudden, he made this amazing turnaround. So you'd almost think he was a Republican, almost.
Almost, yeah, almost.
And he's been really aggravating some of his colleagues on the Democrat side.
It always amazed me too that just looking at his history, he was mayor, I believe.
Yeah, he was,
And,
I forget what town
Yep.
it was.
but just some of the stuff he did there,
Chasing
was,
the guy down the street with a shotgun.
yeah. You'd think that the Democratic Party wouldn't have embraced him as such, but they did,
and here we are.
Yeah.
So every day is a shocker with John Fetterman.
Yeah, but I do think he's seen the isolation that they put on you if you aren't in lockstep, if you don't say what they want you to say and have an opinion or a podpinion of your own.
They
you're
ostracize
out.
it. Yeah, right. Big time out. So what he did, he got together with Senator Kevin Kramer of North Dakota, who's a Republican, and they're pushing for cash payment, like a cash payment bill. So there's been this big push to get away from cash and go to crypto and electronic transfers and all that kind of stuff. So he's actually pushing for just the opposite. That we should have a choice whether we want to use
absolutely.
plastic, digital, or actual cash. So the two of them wrote this bill, and it would require those conducting in-person business to accept cash as payment from customers. So a store would have to take the cash. Like I know there's Kalahari, the water park over here. You can't use cash anywhere in the place. There's a whole bunch of businesses like that now that refuse to take cash. God knows why. It makes no sense to me. I'd rather take cash than plastic.
Yeah. Well, I guess they figure it's easier, simpler, just transfer.
Yeah, but you're getting whacked like 3.5–4% on the
right.
transaction.
Yeah, that's true.
So
as far as the business owner. Yeah.
Right, the business owner, correct. So it says any person engaged in the business of selling or offering goods or services at retail to the public who accepts in-person payments at a physical location, like a brick-and-mortar store, shall accept cash as a form of payment for sales made at such physical location in amounts up to and including $500 per transaction. So they're going to force them to have to take cash.
We're going to have to look this exactly up because I believe there's already a law on the books. I don't know whether it's nationally, but I do remember seeing in Pennsylvania about the laws, and it just had to do with researching on credit card payments and different things that you weren't allowed to, unless they changed it under the radar, a business wasn't allowed to not take cash. It was illegal for them not to be able to accept that.
We'll definitely look into that.
So we'll look into that and see what we can come up with for the next one. But I do remember seeing that, and it was a law that, as far as, and I believe it started out with, because credit cards and then debit cards, but cash was always, you could always use cash.
Right.
So
he said, it's simple. If you're open for business in America, you should be able to take U.S. dollars. Common sense, right? So we shall see if this will get through or not. But I think it's going to meet some opposition from the credit card companies.
Again, I'm interested. Again, we'll look it up, but I'm interested in seeing that $500 per transaction. I don't know that there was a limit before. So maybe this is a way of changing the law for a limitation or something. So we got to be careful and make sure that this is actually not a, adjusting the actual law that's on the books now and
good point.
Bringing it down. So we'll have to look into that. Yeah.
Interesting.
And again, it may have, this was some years ago that I looked into it, taking credit card payments and stuff like that. But it was illegal to not accept cash at that time. So
yeah, we'll definitely look that up and put it in the notes at the bottom. What else is happening? All kinds of stuff. What do you got over on your side there?
So another interesting thing that with the border and the illegal immigrants and
illegal aliens. Illegal aliens. Let's get it right. Illegal aliens.
Yes, it's not immigrants. Well, whatever.
Semantics. They're illegal aliens.
Illegal aliens. And so there is a coalition of 20 predominantly Democratic state attorneys general filed 2 federal lawsuits in Rhode Island and Massachusetts to basically sue the Trump administration to continue funding illegal aliens as they're here using tax dollars.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Our money
Right.
paying for illegal aliens.
Right. So, the credit cards, the cell phones, the rent, the food stamps, all this stuff is federally funded. Thanks to Doge, we've seen a lot of other things that are federally funded that doesn't include state, which I'm sure this encompasses here, like New York State funding different things, and that's how they get around.
Look at the waste in Pennsylvania, right here in Pennsylvania.
Right. So this is again, in my view, they're trying to. They don't care about the individuals. They're looking at ballots and they're looking at voters, and that's why they're coddling up to anybody that they can to try and support them, to try to pay them off, basically, in my Podpinion, to vote for them. So, obviously, if you've given somebody walks across the border a brand new cell phone free service, give them a place,
a
rent.
Joe Biden shirt. Remember that?
Yes. Put them on government-funded food stamps, on Medicaid, Medicare, whatever medical assistance they need. Well, the rest of the Americans are going, what's going on here? I can't afford medical insurance. Why are these people getting insurance? So it just goes to show how deep this corruption and nonsense goes.
I have not seen that in the news.
No. I just happened to
even find that?
On X. I just
stumbled on it.
Stumbled on it, and somebody had posted it. An independent person. And then I looked into it, and
sure enough.
Actually, I actually put this into ChatGPT, and I said, "Can you give me the breakdown just to see what it would do?" And then I looked at it, and it seems it's legit. So the states that are part of this are California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Washington State, Wisconsin, and Vermont.
All blue states.
Yeah.
Stunner.
And some of these states seem to be like the ones in question of who was going to win this last election. Was it going to be Trump or the swing states, So it's going to be interesting what happens here. See which judges, being that they brought the lawsuit up in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, kind of tells you the outcome that they're looking for. They didn't bring the lawsuit up in someplace like Alabama or
Tennessee, Texas,
right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So if you haven't been paying attention or haven't seen this, we hadn't seen it. It just happened to pop up. Keep an eye on that as well. Right.
Research.
Right. And look into it. Don't just let somebody glaze over it. And again, we're bringing this stuff up. We don't claim to be investigative reporters. It's not our careers. We give our opinions, Podpinions.
Well, it's just common sense.
Yeah. And look at different things in a common sense way. And
because I don't believe anything I see on TV or read on the interwebs.
Right.
Thank you, Al Gore.
Thank you, Al Gore. What is it? What you're saying? Everybody's an axe murderer.
Everybody's an axe murderer until proven otherwise.
Right.
Hey, it served me well.
Yeah. So
It has served me well.
What else you got?
Also in the news, in New York City, another sanctuary city and sanctuary state, a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent was shot in the face by an illegal alien.
An illegal alien.
Stunner. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, there's a little park underneath the George Washington Bridge, and the guy was there with his girlfriend or his wife late at night. Now, what he was doing there late at night, I don't know. But it's not exactly the greatest of neighborhoods. But they were sitting on a park bench, and these two guys drove up on a moped, and they were trying to rob him. So he pulled out, he happened to have his duty weapon with him, pulled his gun out, and a firefight ensued between him and the one bad guy, the one illegal alien, and he got shot in the arm and in the face, and evidently knocked out a whole bunch of teeth on the one side. But he's going to recover.
And the agent was the one on the park bench with his wife, and they
and
came
he's
up
the
to
one
rob
who got
him.
shot in the face.
Right.
The other guy got shot in the groin and in the leg, and his buddy put him on the. I actually saw the video. It's pretty wild. Dumped him off at a hospital out in front of the emergency room on the street. The guy was like unconscious. So, they took him in, bullet wounds, and there was some guy. This is like late at night. The guy pulls up in front of the emergency room on the moped with the other guys like in front of him. He's holding him, and just dumps him off. And some guy's walking by, walking his dog, and just kind of looks at the guy on the ground and just keeps going. Typical New York, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess they came out and got him, and then realized what was going on, and he got arrested on the spot.
Just I could see the guy slumped over on him, or kind of him holding him on the moped, and I don't know how my mind works, but it just goes to the Coldplay concert with the
we can make
everything
a meme.
ducks.
We can do a meme. So the officer was in stable condition as of Sunday, and the other guy, and he's expected to survive. I mean, I feel bad. I mean, I just can't imagine getting shot in the face.
Yeah.
Or I can't imagine getting shot, period. But he wasn't in uniform either. He was in plain clothes because he was off duty. But the guy who did the shooting evidently has a record for like domestic assault, all kinds of stuff, and they keep letting him out of jail.
I was just going to say, and let me guess.
He's an illegal alien.
Let me guess. They keep letting him out. No
it's
charges.
Just the guy's name, Miguel Mora. He's 21 years old, illegal alien with an extensive criminal past. He was taken into custody after arriving at a Bronx hospital with gunshot wounds to the groin and leg. His accomplice was caught a few hours later, right? He entered the country illegally through Arizona in 2023, and he had 2 prior arrests for domestic violence in New York, which is where this happened. He was wanted in New York to face accusations of robbery and felony assault, and in Massachusetts over a stolen weapons case, and they let this bozo out.
I can't.
I don't get it.
Well, it goes back to ballots, votes. I mean, who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for somebody who's going to put you in prison, or somebody to let you out? Right? Common sense. I mean, that's my
Invest in
opinion.
lead, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's what I'd like to see what the sheets are for these judges of who they actually put in prison, and
I think it's pretty light right now.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how many guys got out of Rikers Island lately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not now, but when Biden was in office.
But just it would be interesting to see what the cases are. Just a laundry list of all the cases and what the outcomes were and who they were. It would be probably probably a good review for people to see what these people that are dishing out supposed justice.
Well, Mayor Adams, right? The guy used to be a cop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's now the mayor of New York City. So part of him is saying arrest, 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 and then the other side of him is saying let him out, let him out, let him out.
Right.
Where does the guy stand?
Right. Exactly.
And he's
you have to
running
make
for mayor.
You have to make
against
a
that
stand.
whack job communist.
Yeah.
And Curtis Sliwa, who's actually coming up in the polls, which is
New York. I
Cuomo.
mean, New York used to be
a cool town.
Well, you just didn't. They had a reputation. You didn't mess with New York.
Right.
You didn't.
Well, unless you were Mayor Dinkins, that was like the worst.
But what I'm saying is that they just had a reputation for
toughness
and taking care of their own. And I mean, what's happened in New York? It's ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
then you got Cuomo, who's not going to give up, and he's still running as a Democrat, even though the other guy won.
Right.
It's just
I don't know. It's I don't get it. I don't get it.
I predict a major exodus from New York City.
Yeah.
Regardless of who gets in.
Right. But again, is that the plan? Is that their plan to usher out Americans and usher in
illegal
aliens who are going to lock in the vote?
Maybe.
Because if you look at the map, just look at the last presidential election. Just look at the map and see what's red and what's blue. You get these little spots of blue and red everywhere else. But the spots of blue is where the big major cities are, and that's who is swaying the election for the whole state. So we were talking to that gentleman today, and it's it's you have a section that's basically is if you can get the population and those specific sections to go one way, it doesn't matter what anybody else in the state is going to do. It's their vote that's really going to count.
Right.
So, and that is what, as far as nationally, that is what the Electoral College is supposed to try to eliminate, is because we are not a democracy. It isn't whoever has the most as far as
constitutional
it's a constitutional republic. And the person that's 30 miles out away from the city and in the middle of what we would call nowhere should have the same amount of voice as somebody in a highly populated city.
Right.
But
it's
what
not
they've
set up that way.
Well, it is, but what they've done is taking advantage of bringing as many people in as they can, and
to skew the numbers?
Well, yeah, and then taking the tax. In my opinion, my Podpinion, they congregate as many people as possible in these, cities, and then they take the tax money from everybody else in the state, and they funnel it into these cities, sanctuary cities for the illegal aliens, for instance, or give tax breaks or whatever it is, so that they can keep the voting block right there. So everybody in the state is funding it, but they don't have a true voice when it comes to voting because they're just outnumbered with the voters in this small area. And that's basically what the Electoral College was supposed to do when you had large cities, but then you had vast, miles of
Iowa.
Yeah. They should have as much say as everybody else, and they've derived a plan to be able to overcome that by funding everybody that they want to vote for them by using everybody else's tax dollars. So that's my opinion, Podpinions. So,
well, you mentioned colleges and education and universities, and lawyers for Harvard University and the Trump administration, they're fighting it out in court in Boston. So this is all over those protests that they had, where the pro-Palestinian protests. So Trump is trying to cut their funding because they're getting like $2.something billion a year from federal government. They don't need it. The argument is, well, it's for medical research. Well, isn't that what Big Pharma does? Right?
Right.
So what does Harvard need $2.something billion for when they have their endowment of billions of dollars?
Right.
It's like the largest endowment on the planet.
Right.
And so it's going to be interesting. The judge that's hearing the case, Judge Allison Burroughs, she was an Obama appointee, so she's already being vocal about which way she's kind of leaning, which I think is wrong.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
So we shall see what happens.
Yep. And it's probably going to go
continued.
To the Supreme Court eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
So we'll see what happens.
The same thing was.
And where does this lie? You know, the Supreme Court issued a result on, what was it? Some of these federal judges being able to block everything Trump does.
Yeah, but they're all thumbing their nose now at the Supreme Court.
Right. So what's going to happen?
Who knows?
Something's going to have to happen there.
Absolutely. So that, to be continued.
Yeah.
You know. So getting into our what we don't know about stuff and where did it go, right? This is a good one.
Yeah.
I just found this one. It's like, oh yeah, what happened to that? Remember those Chinese weather balloons?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Right.
So the head of North American Aerospace Defense Command, General Glenn Van Herk, described that one balloon that Biden let go all the way across the country, and they didn't shoot it down until it hit the Atlantic Ocean, right?
Right.
And they were saying it was a weather balloon. Well, evidently, it was 200 feet high, and it had a surveillance payload the size of a regional passenger jet. So we're talking like humongous, right? Not a weather balloon.
Yeah.
And it weighed in excess of a couple thousand pounds. So civilians like us who saw it, I didn't see it, but some people did that I know, described it as a giant white orb as it floated about 60,000 feet above the central United States. And it just like went right across the whole country, right?
60,000 feet's not like from here to the wall. I mean,
No.
It's got to be pretty good size to be able to see it.
Exactly. And how did they steer it? That's the other big question.
Right.
So this story just poof went away. I mean, it's amazing to me. They shot it down.
They said they shot it down, and that was it.
That was it.
Didn't hear nothing else.
Right, gone. So they evidently recovered parts of this thing out of the ocean, and they were saying it was made out of some kind of plastic, not like vulcanized rubber or canvas or anything else that like a weather balloon would be made out of. It was plastic.
And it was probably for weight as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, but still,
Right.
how can you say it was a weather balloon? Are we that stupid?
Apparently.
And it was flying over all the military bases in the United States.
Right.
Yeah, it was a weather balloon, sure. But what happened to the story?
Right.
Gone.
So that's another
Completely gone.
That's another investigation that's going to have to be done as far as tying all these people into maybe some other countries that may have interest in taking over our country, and that's why you're overthrowing the sitting president of the United States. You know?
The other biggie, this was just recent. That was like a couple years ago, but this is even more. What happened to all those drones?
No, yeah, right. We talked about it a couple times. Yeah.
Right?
Gone. Yeah.
Absolutely gone. I mean, we had him here, flying over Sanofi, which is like a big pharmaceutical company. They make vaccines, but they also have like
Deadly viruses.
Deadly
and
viruses
yeah.
in this place. I mean, God forbid there's ever a leak.
Right.
I mean, it'll wipe out half the East Coast. But and it's like 2 miles from here. But so now they're saying they were, according to this that I read, they were authorized by the FAA. Now, I remember Trump saying, shoot him down.
Right.
But yet they're saying that the White House says that the FAA approved it.
Okay.
Who at the White House said that?
Right. I'm not sure.
I don't think it was Trump.
Right.
Because he said shoot him down.
And who at the FFA?
FAA.
Sorry. What did I say? FFA?
Yeah.
Who at the FAA was authorizing these permits or whatever they need?
Well, they were saying some of them were like training missions for the government and the Air Force and whoever else, and then some were jumping on the bandwagon, like you and me went out to like Walmart and bought a drone and were flying these things.
Okay. But even then, you need a
permit.
A permit.
Depending upon the size, I think. I'm not real sure about it.
But you do need some sort of, I know there's some sort of license that you have to be able to operate a certain type of drone. In other words,
And these weren't little ones. These are big ones.
Right. But it's not like, you see the kids' toys where, they go from here to the wall and
then the
back.
Done.
But anything that goes above a certain height, you actually have to have like it's not an aviator's license, but it's along those lines. You got to take a test and get your license.
So in December of last year, all these sightings in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and a couple other East Coast states prompted a demand for officials, whoever the officials are. They never say who they are.
Right, just officials.
Officials. To find the source of the flying objects, some of which were spotted near military installations.
Experts.
Now, experts. But we have a military base right here that, what do? They do all kinds of communications repairs for the military. And so the FBI was also the lead agency investigating the sightings. And all of a sudden, it just went away. It was like super hot and then poof.
Right. I remember the one time they were over Trump's golf course in Jersey or something.
Right.
I think he even canceled going there at the time. He was supposed to go there for some kind of event or whatever, and he canceled.
Were they foreign actors?
Yeah.
I hate that one too.
Right.
Actor. Foreign actors.
I think they're in the... I think they have their card, actor card.
SAG and AFTRA? I don't know about that. I don't know.
Are they in the union?
So, yeah, but it's just, but everybody, myself included, it ends and it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's done. But we don't know what happened or why.
Right. The thing about it is everybody was talking about it. But there was no, some people were really scared about it, but there was no, panic.
No, not at all. Well, around here, I mean, I know guys who were shooting at them. So,
I don't know whether, we talked about that. Where did they go? That Miami alien incident. Was that a test to see what the public's reaction was going to be?
Maybe.
Who knows what they're cooking up? I don't know.
That could be what this is, too. I even asked some pilot friends, what's going on with this? And that was the response I got.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was nothing.
Right. But on that note, I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to have plenty of stuff to talk about the next one because this just came out today with Trump's. And he was meeting the head of the other country talking about the trade agreement and that sort of thing, and a reporter asked him,
boom,
and
there it was.
He just dropped it all
no
out
filters.
at once. Right?
No filters.
No filters.
Like
That's right.
So we'll see you next time.
Yep. Have a good one.
Slam the follow button. This is Podpinions.